Just recently, I missed church on one Sunday last week, the week before last. And during that time, I was planning to go to a wedding. I didn't want to be late for the wedding, so I missed church, which was not very wise. But in the midst of that, I was walking into my room, and I heard a loud crash, and I was wondering, what's that? So I go to the window, and while I'm at the window, I see that an SUV hit a building, and then he started driving off really fast, maybe doing about 60 or 70 miles per hour. Then, all of a sudden, he hits my husband's car, and he knocks the car up on the curb. And I could not believe what was happening right before my eyes, and I'm telling my husband, this man just hit your car, only to really know that my husband had just made it in the house only 3 or 4 minutes prior to that accident. And in my mind, all I'm thinking is, that could have been him. But I'm thankful that God saved his life and spared his life. But the thing is, I was missing church that day to go to a wedding, but that I didn't want to be late for. But when you don't honor God and do the things that you're supposed to do, you're going to be late anyway, because I was late for the wedding. But the other part of that story that I want to tell is that I said to my husband, I said, honey, God spared your life. I said, God was watching over you. I said, because 3 or 4 minutes prior to that, he could have either pinned you up to the car. If you were still in the car, he could have knocked you like on the curb as well. I said, and you don't know what could have happened. I said, but I just thank God for his protection and watching over you. But the other thing that I also must say is my daughter and I, we pray constantly for my husband, but for our family, because we have a great family. But we pray because my husband was a practicing Jehovah's Witness. Well, he wasn't practicing before we got married, but he always said to me, he says, Karen, if I ever go back to another church, it would be back to the hall. And I would just pray and say, Lord, I know how much you love me, and I know how much you honor my prayers and our prayers. And I said, and I know that there's nothing that you wouldn't do for me. I said, but I'm going to keep on praying and standing and believing on your word. But don't you know, later on, I said to my husband again, I said, you know, your life is spared. I said, God's watching over you. He's shining his light on you. He says, I know. So the next day, we were talking on the phone, and he said to me, because I always say really wonderful things about my small group and about my church, because I love it here. And I always talk about the small group and the things we do and the wonderful ladies and how it's just so uplifting and there's so much warmth and love there. So when he called me the next day, well, when we were talking, he said to me, he says, Karen, he says, do you think that there's a small group that I could join? And I said to him, there's this guy named Charles Sarge. We call him Sarge. I said, you would be great for his class. But just the fact that he saw fit to want to be a part of something that really meant something. And to me, he said that that was something he would never do. But it just goes to show how God can turn things around. And that's what I'm thankful for.